Hello and welcome to today's practice. This is not a traditional guided meditation per se. This is more of a quiet journey inward, a gentle exploration of one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths. This is an invitation to pause and to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, and to reflect, not just with your mind, but with your whole being. So before we begin, I invite you to make yourself as comfortable as possible. Let this be a time just for you. Switch off any distractions, silence your phone, and if it feels right, lie down or sit down in a relaxed position. Let your hands rest softly, your shoulders drop, and your breath begin to slow. If it feels comfortable, close your eyes. And with that simple gesture, allow the outer world to blur a little. Let your awareness begin to settle inward. This is your time, a quiet space to breathe, to listen, and to remember. Now, let's begin. We'll begin with what the Buddha called the first noble truth, the truth of dukkha. Now, dukkha is often translated as suffering, but that word in English can feel a bit narrow. We usually think of suffering as something dramatic, illness, grief, crisis. And yes, that is part of it. But dukkha also points to something more subtle, a quiet dissatisfaction that runs through ordinary life. It's the restlessness we feel when things don't go our way, the ache of wanting something or someone we can't have, the tension of holding on to what we love, knowing it won't last. Even when life is going well, there can still be a sense that something is missing, that we're not quite at ease, that we're always reaching for something just out of grasp. The Buddha wasn't saying life is only suffering. Rather, he was pointing out a universal experience, that being human means we will experience discomfort, loss, longing, and confusion. And that these things are not mistakes or personal failures. They're woven into the very fabric of existence. Why? Because everything in life is impermanent. Everything changes. Our bodies, our emotions, our relationships, our plans. They're all in flux, constantly shifting, whether we want them to or not. And it's when we resist this natural truth that we suffer. So the first noble truth is not meant to depress us. It's meant to help us stop running, to name what we already know deep down, that life, as it is uncertain, and that sometimes it hurts. But in acknowledging this, we take the first step toward freedom, because when we see suffering clearly, with honesty and compassion, we can begin to understand it, and from there, begin to walk a new path. The second noble truth, samudaya, is about where suffering comes from. It is about the origin of suffering. The Buddha taught that suffering doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It has a cause. And that cause is something we all experience. Attachment, craving, and a kind of ignorance or confusion about the way things truly are. At the heart of it is craving. This feeling of I want, I need, I must have in order to be okay. And it can show up in many forms, craving for pleasure, craving for security, craving for control, craving for life to be different than it is right now. And not all craving is loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet insistence beneath the surface. If only I had this, then I'd be happy. If only this hadn't happened, I could relax. If only they were still here, I'd be whole again. And when we do get what we want, we cling to it, because part of us knows it won't last. And that clinging creates fear. It creates stress, even in the middle of joy. So the Buddha wasn't blaming us. He wasn't saying craving is bad or that we should feel ashamed for craving. He was simply pointing to a pattern that creates pain, a pattern we all get caught in because we don't fully understand the nature of things. That's the ignorance the Buddha spoke about, not a lack of intelligence, but a forgetting that everything changes, that nothing, no feeling, no person, no moment stays the same. So we reach, we grasp, we try to hold life still, and in doing so, we suffer. But once we begin to see this clearly, without judgment, just awareness, something shifts. We start to catch the craving as it arises. We notice the thoughts that say, this isn't enough. We feel the pull, but maybe we don't follow it. And in that small space, we begin to loosen the grip. This is the second noble truth, that suffering has a cause. And that cause is not out there in the world. It's here, in how we relate to the world. But this is not a reason to despair. It's a reason to hope. Because if suffering has a cause, then it also has a cure. And that's what we'll explore next. Now we arrive at the third noble truth, nirodha, the cessation of suffering. If the first truth tells us that suffering exists, and the second explains where it comes from, then the third one offers something deeply hopeful. Suffering can end. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, not because we escape pain or grief, but because the cause of suffering, craving, clinging, the grasping mind, can be seen clearly and gently released. The Buddha called this nirodha, the cessation or ending of suffering. It doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It doesn't mean giving up on joy or love. In fact, it means quite the opposite. It means learning how to live in a way that's more free, more open, more steady, more at peace with how things truly are. When we let go of the endless reaching for what isn't here, we return to what is. When we stop fighting the flow of life, we find a kind of ease even in the midst of difficulty. This doesn't happen all at once, and it's not about becoming perfectly enlightened overnight. It's about small moments of release. A breath where you choose to let go, a moment when you pause before reacting, an evening when you stop needing everything to be different and simply rest. That's the beginning of freedom. The Buddha wasn't offering a fantasy. He was describing a real possibility that the suffering we carry, even the ancient heavy kind, can begin to loosen, unravel, and soften. And what remains in its place is not emptiness, but peace, stillness, clarity, the quiet joy of being present with what is. This is the third noble truth, that freedom is possible. Not by changing the world around us, but by changing how we relate to it. And the path toward that freedom, that's the fourth noble truth. And it's what we'll explore next. The fourth noble truth, magga, is the path to the end of suffering. If the first noble truth is the wound, and the second is the cause, the third is the possibility of healing, then the fourth is the medicine, the path. The Buddha didn't just point out the problem. He offered a way through, a way of living, clear, compassionate, and grounded. A way of living that leads to the end of suffering. This path is called the Noble Eightfold Path. It's not like a list of rules or a rigid set of commandments. It's more like a guide, a compass, pointing us back again and again to clarity, to presence, to wisdom. The path has 8 parts, but they're not like steps to be completed in order. They are more like threads in a fabric. They support each other. They mature together over time. Let's walk through them slowly. Right understanding, Samma Ditti. This is where the journey begins, with seeing clearly, understanding the Four Noble Truths, recognizing that suffering arises and that it can end. It's not about believing something blindly, but about observing life honestly, just as it is. This is the right understanding. Right thought, Samma Sankappa. Our thoughts shape our experience. Right thought means gently guiding the mind towards kindness, toward compassion, toward letting go instead of holding tight. It means cultivating thoughts that heal rather than harm. Right speech, Samma Vacha. The words we speak matter. Are they true? Are they kind? Are they necessary? Right speech is about using a language as a tool for connection rather than division. It invites us to speak from wisdom and not reactivity. Right action, Samma Kammanta. This is the way we move through the world, how we treat others and ourselves. Right action means living ethically and doing our best to avoid harm and acting from integrity, even when no one is watching. Right livelihood, Samma Ajiva. How we earn a living is part of our path. Right livelihood means choosing work that supports rather than contradicts our values. It's about doing what we can to live in a way that uplifts rather than exploits. Right effort, Samma Vayama. Not all effort is helpful. Right effort is about balance, knowing when to gently persist, but also knowing when to stop and rest. It's about nourishing what is skillful within us and letting go of what keeps us stuck. Right mindfulness, Samma Sati. This is the heart of presence, the ability to be here fully with what is, not lost in the past, not rushing into the future, but aware, steady, and open. Right mindfulness allows us to see clearly without being swept away. And finally, right concentration, Samma Samadhi, the deep stillness that arises through meditation. It's not about controlling the mind. It's more about settling into a focused, stable awareness. A mind that's calm becomes a mind that sees, and a mind that sees begins to awaken. These 8 aspects of the path support one another. They are not rules to follow perfectly, but invitations to live with more wisdom, more care, and more clarity. The Noble Eightfold Path is how we begin to let go of suffering, not by forcing, not by fixing, but by living with gentle awareness, moment by moment, breath by breath. This is the 4th Noble Truth, that there is a path, that it's possible to walk it, and that we don't have to do it all at once. We begin where we are, and that is always enough. As we come to the end of this quiet journey, let your breath gently deepen and feel the weight of your body once again, resting, supported, and here. You've just listened to one of the most ancient and compassionate maps ever offered to the human heart. The 4 Noble Truths are not just concepts to understand. They are truth to live with, to return to when life feels confusing, painful, or uncertain. So take a moment now just in silence to notice. What stayed with you? What stirred something in you? What felt true? You might feel a quiet recognition, or perhaps some questions. Curiosity about how this might apply to your own path, your own suffering, and your own search for peace. There's no need to have it all figured out. This is a lifelong practice, and you are already walking it simply by listening, simply by opening. You may wish to come back to this reflection again and again, especially when life feels heavy or when you long for deeper clarity. And you could even take some time to take notes on what resonated with you, what challenged you, and what you'd like to explore further. If this teaching touched something in you, you'll find a book recommendation in the show notes. It's a gentle companion to dive a little deeper into the heart of Buddhist wisdom. For now, you can begin to invite some small movement back into the body. Maybe move your fingers, the toes. Give yourself a good stretch if it feels good. And when you're ready, you can softly, gently open your eyes. Bring with you what you've heard, not as something to strive for, but as something to keep close, like a lamp in the dark, to return to again and again. Thank you for sharing this time. May your path be steady. May your heart be light. And may you remember, freedom is always possible.